Okay.
Nice to meet you.
You come through Miami again?
Next year.
Yeah. It's
Next year, for sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'll come see you play. Is
Oh, really?
that a deal?
Okay, deal. That's a deal.
Yeah.
Before the Miami Open 2026 has barely had a chance to find its footing, the Miami Heat's head coach is already making noise, not on the hardwood, but by personally rolling out the red carpet for Eala. He invited her to watch the Heat take on the Orlando Magic, and the way he did it, that wasn't a casual invite. That was a full superstar welcome. Let's be real for a second. This wasn't some quick courtside photo op. It wasn't a handshake, a wave, and a glad you could make it. This was one of the most decorated coaches in the history of the NBA personally hosting one of the freshest, most electrifying names in women's tennis. And that tells you everything you need to know about how far Eala has come. What hit different about this moment was how genuine it felt. Spoelstra didn't just hand her a ticket and move on with his day. By all accounts, he walked her through the Heat's facilities himself, giving her the full tour, like a host who genuinely wanted her to feel at home. Not like a guest, like someone who belongs there. Think about what that actually means. This is a man who has won championships, who coaches elite athletes for a living, whose calendar is packed wall to wall. And he carved out time, personally, to walk alongside Eala, show her around, have real conversations, and make her feel exactly as important as she is. That kind of treatment isn't handed out freely. It's reserved for people who have truly earned their place at the table. And right now, there's no question, Eala has arrived.
For, I don't know, probably for a handful of years.
Oh.
Now I have a reason to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
sure.
of course.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Spoelstra is a proud Filipino-American, one of the most visible and celebrated Filipino figures in all of American sports. And watching a young Filipino athlete like Eala rise on the world stage, commanding rooms and turning heads at an international tournament on American soil, that clearly hit home for him in a way that went well beyond professional admiration. You could feel it in every detail of how he treated her. This wasn't a PR move. This was one trailblazer recognizing another. Spoelstra saw something in Eala, the discipline, the potential, the kind of quiet fire that doesn't just build a career, it builds a legacy. The kind of story that gives millions of people, especially those who rarely see themselves reflected at the top of global sport, a reason to believe it's possible for them too. And he didn't just welcome her, he poured into her. He sat with her, shared stories, spoke to her from a place of genuine experience and belief. Think about what that means for a young athlete already carrying the weight of massive expectations heading into one of the biggest tournaments on American soil. A championship-winning coach pulls you close and tells you, not from obligation, but from pride, that he sees you, that your journey matters, that you belong. Those moments don't leave you. Athletes carry them for the rest of their careers. Then, as if to make sure she knew the door was open long-term, Spoelstra reportedly told Eala to come back whenever she's in Miami. That one detail changes everything about how you read this story. This wasn't a one-time gesture for the cameras. That's the kind of thing you say to someone you genuinely consider family. Fans picked up on it immediately. The reaction wasn't just excitement, it was recognition. People could tell this was real. Spoelstra wasn't being polite. He was proud, he was invested, and by all accounts, he was genuinely moved by what Eala is becoming. And the night only got bigger from there. Spoelstra walked her to the stands, soaked in the atmosphere with her, and introduced her to Miami Heat players. For a rising star already living under a growing spotlight every single week, that moment was deeply symbolic. It signaled something the tennis world is starting to understand clearly. Eala isn't just a promising young player finding her footing. She is someone elite athletes in other sports are paying attention to, respecting not just for her results, but for the way she carries herself. The Heat made sure the moment didn't stay quiet either. The organization shared her visit on Instagram and publicly threw their support behind her ahead of the Miami Open. When a franchise with that kind of platform puts its weight behind a young tennis star, the story explodes into a different orbit entirely. It tells sponsors, fans, and fellow athletes that this isn't someone you wait to notice, this is someone you pay attention to now. And what makes all of this so compelling is that the Miami Heat moment isn't a one-off. It's part of a pattern. Since arriving in America, Eala has been moving through spaces usually reserved for the sport's biggest established names, drawing attention from major brands, major institutions, major figures. She's doing it with a combination of poise, humility, and natural magnetism that makes people instinctively want to get behind her. Which brings us to Nike, because if the Heat story raised eyebrows, the Nike chapter made jaws drop. The whispers had been building for a while, speculation about her relationship with the brand, what it might look like, how big it could get. But when the details started emerging, this wasn't some quiet corporate announcement. The story painted a picture of Nike going all out, an exclusive event, a proper celebration, a signal to the entire sports world about exactly how they view her future. And then there's the gallery, an Alex Eala gallery inside Nike headquarters. A dedicated space honoring her iconic moments in tennis. That is not something you do for someone you're testing out. That is something you do for someone you're building around. Then came the comment that stopped everyone cold. Novak Djokovic, one of the greatest players to ever pick up a racket, reportedly said that Eala is impressive on TV, but even better in person. Coming from him, that isn't a compliment. That's a verdict, because what Djokovic is describing is something rare, an athlete whose presence, movement, and aura actually exceeds what the camera can capture. Some players have it, that electric quality that makes people in the same room feel like they're watching something different, something sharper, more commanding, more complete than any broadcast can convey. If Novak Djokovic sees that in Alex Eala, the whole world should be paying attention.
Well, I have to figure it out. I was really blown away by how inspired she was. I mean, I was blown away by watching.
And the way her rise is being framed by those around her makes it land even harder. Not controversy, not manufactured hype, not a carefully engineered image built on noise. Djokovic's praise, and the chorus of voices growing around her, keeps coming back to the same thing. She is earning it. Through her performances, through her professionalism, through the quiet, consistent way she is building her place inside the WTA and refusing to take shortcuts to get there. That is the kind of validation that means something. Anyone can generate buzz. Very few athletes generate respect at this stage of their career. When the praise coming your way isn't just about your forehand or your ranking, but about your character, that's when you know something real is happening. And then there's Jessica Pegula. Because her reported interest in having Eala on her podcast tells its own story, and it's worth pausing on. Pegula isn't chasing match statistics or highlight reels here. She wants to sit across from Eala and have a conversation. That means people aren't just watching what she does on the court anymore. They're drawn to her energy, her perspective, the way she thinks, the story she's living in real time. That's a different category entirely. That's the moment an athlete stops being a competitor people track and starts being a figure people genuinely follow. When the interest in who you are off the court starts to match the interest in what you're doing on it, you've crossed a line that most professionals never reach. Alex Eala is crossing that line right now. And from everything unfolding around the Miami Open, she's only just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, she's really good tennis player. Goes for her shots, takes the ball early, rips. Being a lefty is always tricky, competes really well. I mean, obviously she's beaten a lot of top players this week. I don't really think she needs me to tell her that she's a great player, that we're not going to see enough of her, but we definitely are. And she proved that tonight. I mean, that was really tough.
Alex Eala has moved past the one-to-watch conversation. She's stepped into something bigger, a symbol of what women's tennis looks like when the next generation doesn't just arrive, but commands the room from the moment they walk in. Young, fearless, globally connected, and carrying the kind of presence that makes the sport's most powerful institutions stop and take notice. The Miami Heat, Nike, Novak Djokovic, Erik Spoelstra. These aren't small gestures from small corners of the sports world. These are major forces, across multiple industries, all pointing in the same direction at the same time. And when that happens around one athlete, when the investment stops being casual and starts feeling deliberate, you're not watching a rising star anymore. You're watching the beginning of something that will define a generation. The sports world isn't just observing Eala from a distance. It's pulling up a chair. It's opening doors. It's saying, loudly and without hesitation, that this is someone worth betting on before the rest of the world fully catches up. And if Erik Spoelstra, a man who has spent his entire career in rooms full of greatness, who knows better than almost anyone what elite looks like up close, if he is moved enough to personally open his doors, share his time, and tell her to come back whenever she's in Miami, that's not a welcome, that's a prophecy. The people closest to greatness can always see it coming. And right now, they're all looking at Alex Eala.